Shalom, my friends, this is Max Joseph, and I'm here because it is the first day of March, which means it is time for the predictions. To give a quick rundown, the predictions will be a video that will be released on the first of every month and will feature my predictions for the upcoming Academy Awards. Each category will feature the maximum number of nominees possible, with an additional few that are the next in line. And then, because it is so early in the year, there's no need to really do the big snub that should make it like I normally do, so instead, I'm going to just add an additional few nominees that'll be titled Followed By. And I won't always get into detail about every single pick because then the video would be 9 hours long, so I'll always talk about my pick to win and then some other highlights on the list. And my friends, this is very early, so there's a chance that some of these films won't even be released this year. Certain people may go from lead to supporting, original screenplay might be adapted, vice versa. We'll see what happens. But before I go into my predictions, please make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel and ding that little bell to get notified whenever I post new videos. And so, here are my predictions for the 2021 Oscars, March edition. Best Picture. We have a very exciting year ahead of us, my friends, and a lot to talk about, so let's get started with my bold, no guts, no glory predicted winner, Spike Lee's upcoming film, Da 5 Bloods. And you might be asking, why of all movies do you have this one winning? Well, part of it is because any guess is as good as mine, and it's early, but here's the other reason. It has everything it needs to win, starting with the plot. What we know is that it's about 4 African-American vets who return to Vietnam, searching for the remains of their fallen squad leader and the promise of buried treasure. So plot alone is already super exciting. Pair that with Academy Award-winning writer Spike Lee. God, it still feels so good to say that. But I'm also thinking no Spike film has won Best Picture yet, nor has he won Director, and I think that this may do the trick. And he's brought some power behind him, not just in his cast, which includes Chadwick Boseman, Delroy Lindo, Jean Reno, my supporting actor winner of last year, Jonathan Majors, and Paul Walter Hauser, but with Oscar nominee Terrence Blanchard scoring for him, BAFTA nominee Thomas Newton Siegel as DP, Academy Award winners on sound, and again, most important, it's Spike Lee, and I think it would be a shame if one of his films never wins Best Picture. Will it be this one? I don't know. Da 5 Bloods has some intense competition, one of which is something that I'm very excited about, MANK, which is the upcoming David Fincher film. And listen to this. It follows screenwriter Herman J. Mankiewicz's tumultuous development of Orson Welles' iconic masterpiece, Citizen Kane. Wait, I'm not done. Guess who is playing Mankiewicz? None other than Academy Award winner Gary Oldman. Oh, no, we're still not done. We also have Amanda Seyfried, Lily Collins, Tom Burke, and Tuppence Middleton. And then behind the scenes, you have legends all over the place, which I'll get to more when those specific categories come up. But while I am pulling for Da 5 Bloods, I think that Mank has the chance to do some serious damage and could be argued as the smart choice to pick as the frontrunner. Next is perhaps one of my most anticipated meaty films of the year, The Trial of the Chicago 7, which is directed and co-written by one of the greatest writers alive, Aaron Sorkin. And this is based on a true story about 7 people on trial stemming from various charges surrounding the uprising at the 1968 Democratic National Convention in Chicago, Illinois. Sound like a Sorkin kind of movie? Yeah, I think so. It also stars one of my favorite actors, Oscar winner Eddie Redmayne. It has Sacha Baron Cohen, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Frank Langella, Oscar winner Mark Rylance, Jeremy Strong, Caitlin Fitzgerald, rising star Kelvin Harrison Jr., Michael Keaton. It even has a Tony winner, Alex Sharp. This is screaming for SAG Ensemble win, and I, for one, am very excited. I'm also super interested in Chloe Zhao's new film, Nomadland, which tells the story of a woman in her 60s. After losing everything in the Great Recession, she embarks on a journey through the American West, living as a van-dwelling modern-day nomad. Now, when I first read that plot description, I'm like, sure, could be interesting. But then I saw who it stars, and it's Oscar winner Frances McDormand, and if she is leading this film, you can sign me up. Okay, so I'm very excited to talk about one of my favorite musicals of all time, In the Heights. I was thrilled when it was announced that Lin-Manuel Miranda's Tony-winning musical would get a film adaptation, but I wasn't expecting it to be as good as the Broadway production. And although the world hasn't seen it yet, that trailer did enough for me to say that this could be one of the greatest movie musicals of all time. I may eat my words later, but I'm sticking with it for now. Director John M. Chu is coming off hot after Crazy Rich Asians. Anthony Ramos is about to earn himself some serious awards buzz. Like, I think he has a real shot at winning the Globe for musical comedy, and I do believe the Oscar. My only worry is that it has a summer release date of June 26th. For the most part, summer releases are a hard sell. Just look at last year's Rocketman. It had a May release date and only earned itself one Oscar nomination that it also won. But you know who the world loves? Lin-Manuel Miranda. So if they are really all in on this film, they're going to nominate this for a lot of stuff. My other thought is that there's a good chance that the Academy will decide to go with only one of the big movie musicals coming out. And that other big one happens to be West Side Story, which of course won Best Picture and 9 other Oscars. It has a crazy awesome cast full of Broadway studs, 2 potential top 5 nominees in Rachel Zegler and Ariana Debose, and it's Spielberg. So when it's Spielberg, you gotta immediately think big. Honestly, I'd be thrilled if we got both musicals in this lineup. That would make my year. Has it ever happened that 2 musicals were nominated for Best Picture? It has. To my knowledge, the last time it happened was in 1969 when Funny Girl went up against the eventual winner, Oliver. So it doesn't really happen often, but fortunately, I think at least one will make it. Denis Villeneuve is back with one of the world's most anticipated films, Dune. And Dune is an adaptation of Frank Herbert's science fiction novel about the son of a noble family entrusted with the protection of the most valuable asset and most vital element in the galaxy. With an all-star cast which includes Timothée Chalamet, Rebecca Ferguson, Dave Bautista, Stellan Skarsgård, Charlotte Rampling, Oscar Isaac, Zendaya, Javier Bardem, Josh Brolin, Jason Momoa. This is not just going to be an acting masterclass, but a visual feast from Oscar winner Paul Lambert and nearly 100 other members on that visuals team. You got Hans Zimmer on music. If you look at all the pieces that this film has, this could end up not just being the most nominated film of the year, but it could end up winning the most as well. News of the World stars Tom Hanks, and anything that stars Tom Hanks must be taken seriously. Directed by Paul Greengrass, who has already worked with Hanks on Captain Phillips. News of the World is adapted from Paulette Giles' novel, which is about a Texan traveling across the Wild West, bringing news of the world to local townspeople. Agrees to help rescue a young girl who was kidnapped. It sounds really exciting and something that Hanks is really going to get to dig his teeth into. But I would also have been thinking that if it wasn't his name attached to the project, there's a small part of me that would say that it may just go unnoticed. But it won't, because it's Tom Hanks, and Tom Hanks is one of the greatest actors of all time. On the Rocks is about a young mother who reconnects with her larger-than-life playboy father on an adventure through New York. You know who's playing that larger-than-life father? Bill Murray. I'll talk more about him when we get into actor in a leading role, but attached to the project is Oscar winner Sofia Coppola, who is directing and writing, and I, for one, am ready for her to get back to the award scene. We haven't seen her since Lost in Translation in 2004, but with an awesome cast, I think this could be a really beautiful, funny, and heart-wrenching film. Stillwater feels like the kind of movie that will just kind of break my tear ducts. Father travels from Oklahoma to France to help his daughter, who has been arrested for murder. Starring Matt Damon and Abigail Breslin, I think this will really shock me with how emotional it is. With direction from Spotlight's Oscar-winning writer, Tom McCarthy, who is back with his first big movie since the Best Picture winner in 2016. But with one of the more popular and well-received Best Picture winners from the last decade, this one is gonna be one to look forward to. Last, Parasite just broke ground as the first foreign film to win Best Picture, and so you know what? Let's get some animation back in the Best Picture race. Although Pixar's Soul might not win Best Picture, I think it might get nominated. An animated film hasn't happened since 2010. In fact, only 3 films have ever cracked the Best Picture lineup. Beauty and the Beast at the 64th Academy Awards in '92, Up at the 82nd in 2010, and then just 1 year later, Pixar did it again with Toy Story 3. Soul is about a musician who has lost his passion for music. He's transported out of his body and must find his way back with the help of an infant soul learning about herself. A sweet baby Moses, this will be something remarkable. The trailer already has the world buzzing and preparing us to just sob, or maybe it's just me, I don't know. My body is ready for Pixar to finally give us original content, not just sequels. Not that I don't love sequels, but it's time for something new, and I believe that this will be a masterpiece and possibly one of the best Pixar movies in its history. Best Director. There are so many to choose from, so at this point, pick something and stick with it. But because I'm predicting Divide Bloods to win pick, I'm gonna stick with the great Spike Lee as my pick to win on March 1st at least. But it is absolutely anyone's game. There's a lot of talent in this lineup. There's a lot of talent not in this lineup that hasn't even been announced yet. But I think it is going to be a good batch and hopefully much more diverse than last year. And on this small list of 15, only 3 have already won for direction, that being Steven Spielberg, Guillermo del Toro, and Ron Howard. That means that there are 12 people fighting to win their first Oscar. Many have come close and some haven't even sniffed the stage yet. So what I'm trying to say is that this batch of directors is very exciting and hungry to earn gold. Some perhaps hungrier to earn another statue on February 28th, 2021. Actress in a leading role. Ooh, it's a battle here. At this point, even though it's anyone's game, I'm gonna go with Golden Globe nominee Ana de Armas for her role as the legendary, iconic, all of those words, Marilyn Monroe. They just gave the last Oscar for actress in a leading role to Renee Zellweger for portraying Judy Garland in Judy. A year before that, Rami Malek for portraying Freddie Mercury in Bohemian Rhapsody. So it just feels like the current trend is to award biopic roles, or even characters that existed before the movie's existence. That's a mouthful. Joaquin Phoenix, Joker. Gary Oldman in Darkest Hour. Eddie Redmayne in The Theory of Everything. Meryl Streep in Iron Lady. There's obviously many exceptions, but I believe that it is almost more impressive when people are unoriginal characters, but someone who we can compare them to, and if they act like them well, it's considered brilliant, which I'm not denying. But I think I just wonder if it's actually more impressive when it's someone we've never heard of, and these actors just make us feel like we've known them forever. Again, not saying it's more impressive, I think it depends on the situation, but I wouldn't be mad if we had more original roles for people to really create. Anyway, vent over. Back to the nominations. My only reservation on de Armas is that Michelle Pfeiffer has yet to win an Oscar, and I doubt that we want to have her go through her brilliant career without one. Y'all know I hate the it's their time kind of deal, but it does happen, and we want to make sure she gets her win. But she's also going against 2 Oscar winners, the first being Kate Winslet, who'll be playing opposite Sooirse Ronan, and then Frances McDormand, who in my opinion may be one of the greatest living actors. Those 4 alone are enough to make this an awesome lineup. But here comes Rachel Zegler. I'm telling y'all, do not underestimate her. She's about to take on one of the most iconic roles in theater history in one of the most perfect musicals ever written. And have you heard her sing? Woo! I think she has the chance to do something pretty remarkable in West Side Story. She's gonna blow up because of this performance, and I can't wait to witness it. Right on the edge is Amy Adams, who has still somehow never won an Oscar. She's been nominated 6 times, but just can't quite seem to win. And right behind her are 4 Oscar winners, Cate Blanchett, Jennifer Hudson, my queen Viola Davis, and Jennifer Lawrence is returning in Red, White, and Water. We got some strong women in this category, and I'm here for it. Actor in a leading role. Here's the deal. Bill Murray hasn't been nominated for an Oscar since 2004's Lost in Translation. Bill Murray is also one of the greatest comedic actors to ever breathe. He'll be joined by the comedic geniuses Rashida Jones and Jenny Slate. I just have this image in my head of Bill Murray running the greatest Oscar campaign ever. Similar to National Treasure Richard E. Grant's campaign for Can You Ever Forgive Me? Just a bundle of joy, documenting everything, and making this season really fun to follow. Also, I think he's gonna be amazing. Gary Oldman is obviously in the conversation for Mank, but he just won a few years ago. Silence of the Lambs winner Anthony Hopkins' performance in The Father has already been praised out of Sundance. And then my favorite current male actor, Adam Driver. Well, I just have predicted that he's gonna just become the next Meryl Streep, where we'll just see him getting nominated almost every year he's in something. So far, he's 2 years in a row, and I think he might get 3. I saved Anthony Ramos for last. In the Heights is gonna be compared to Rocketman a lot for many reasons. One is that they'll both have that early release date, which I talked about earlier, and the second is that they'll both feature lead performances that are more than deserving of a nomination, but may get snubbed in the end because of the release date. And they're both musical performances. But the difference is I think Ramos is gonna get in. I also think In the Heights has the chance to get double-digit nominations. but I'll get to that throughout this video. And Anthony Ramos is a stud. Most people recognize him as John Lawrence and Philip Hamilton in Lin-Manuel Miranda's Hamilton, which also won the Tony Award for Best Musical and 10 others. Or maybe as Ramon in Bradley Cooper's A Star is Born. But in the words of Hamilton, I think he's about to turn the world upside down and give a performance that could one day be compared to the great movie musical performances of Gene Kelly. He's about to tear up this award season. And you know how he was at the Oscars this last year and he talked about it being his first time? They're gonna have a field day doing the whole like, look where he was just 1 year ago. Get ready, world. In the Heights is coming this summer, and Ramos is about to do some work. Actress in a supporting role. This is it. I think this is the year that Saoirse Ronan wins her Oscar. She'll only be 26 years old when she earns her 5th nomination in 2021. She's playing opposite Kate Winslet in Francis Lee's newest film, Ammonite, set in 1840s England, where an infamous fossil hunter and a young woman sent to convalesce by the sea, the two begin to develop an intense relationship, altering both of their lives forever. Y'all, I think that if the film does what I think it's gonna do, Ronan is gonna sweep this year. Unless Glenn Close happens. If Glenn Close even kind of becomes a thing, it's over. She's been nominated 7 times and has still yet to win. A record only surpassed by Peter O'Toole with 8 nominations and 0 wins. This record is of course just for acting. But think about it. It would be one of the biggest tragedies in the history of the Academy Awards if Glenn Close goes without winning an Oscar. I'm not sure if it'll happen for this or maybe Sunset Boulevard, I don't know. But she better win soon. We also might see Abigail Breslin return to the Oscar stage after her nomination in 2007 for Little Miss Sunshine. And I also think either Rooney Mara, Toni Collette for Guillermo del Toro's Nightmare Alley. But again, we don't know who's going lead, we don't know who's going supporting, so it'll just depend. Also super pumped for Ariana DeBose to have herself a year between West Side Story and The Prom. This 6-time Broadway star is taking her talents to the big screen, and after watching her perform in New York, I could not be more excited for her and for the world to see just how marvelous she is. Actor in a supporting role. This race is super interesting to me, which could include 2 former winners in Eddie Redmayne and Benicio del Toro, 1 former nominee in David Strathairn, and 2 who have never been nominated, that being Tom Burke and Chadwick Boseman. It's nice to see some new blood in there, as well as some familiar faces. In fact, only 6 of these 15 have ever been nominated, and only 4 of those 6 have won. But the race is wide open, and we're not sure who will end up going lead and who will go supporting, but I do feel confident that Tom Burke will be supporting because Oldman is the lead. And if you didn't know who he's playing in Mank, well, he's playing Orson Welles. If you don't know who Orson Welles is, well, he starred in Citizen Kane and was nominated for his performance and direction and won for its screenplay. So in review, Tom Burke is playing the guy who wrote, directed, and starred in what is considered by many the greatest film of all time, which will be directed by David Fincher. To me, this is just a smart call a year out. Original screenplay. Fincher, Spike, Sorkin, Coppola, Doctor. Let's go. I'd be thrilled with any of these wins. Now you may be asking why I have Mank winning screenplay when I have Five Bloods winning pick and director. Well, I think it's bound to win one of the above-the-line categories that's not acting, and screenplay kind of feels like the most likely to me. And there is a world where Mank does win screenplay and it then wins director and pick. We'll see. Aaron Sorkin is also in this race, and I've said it before, this man is one of the greatest screenwriters of all time, and I expect this to be very special and a big contender. Coppola could also be a huge player. She won this Oscar for her brilliant script Lost in Translation in 2004, and if she wins this, she would become the 3rd woman to win multiple screenplays in the history of the Academy Awards. 2 times before that, 87 and 93, and then before that, 1930 and 1932. And for those who think that animated couldn't possibly get in for screenplay, y'all must have missed the memo on who the heck Pete Docter is. His animated screenplays have been nominated 4 times: Toy Story, WALL-E, Up, and Inside Out. So with his track record, it would be more shocking if Soul somehow missed screenplay. There have been 9 total films nominated for a screenplay Oscar, but None have yet to win. Could this Pixar film be the first to do it? I have no clue. But if it does, I think the world should seriously consider it winning Best Picture, or at least a frontrunner. Adapted screenplay. Speaking of fierce women, enter Chloe Zhao. Because I have Nomadland so high up on picture, that's the main reason I have it winning adapted. There's 3 nominees that are in my Best Picture lineup. News of the World has Oscar nominee Luke Davies writing the script for the popular book written by Paulette Giles. Hillbilly Elegy has another Oscar-nominated writer, Vanessa Taylor, penning the book, originally written by J.D. Vance. Skipping Dune for a second, I'll get back there. Then Abe Sylvia writing for The Eyes of Tammy Faye, which is based on the 2000 documentary by Fenton Bailey and Randy Barbado. Dune is based on the novel by Frank Herbert, and went on to win the Hugo Award and the Nebula Award, and was just a huge success book-wise. It even had a film adaptation by none other than David Lynch in 1984. It didn't do too well, to say it kindly. But you know what I'm starting to get the feeling of? Denis Villeneuve likes to remake, continue, or adapt movies that didn't do too well at the box office, and make them amazing. He turned a film that received only 2 Oscar nominations to a masterpiece, in my head, that earned 5 nominations and 2 wins. So what I'm getting at, Villeneuve is a game changer and has yet to be nominated for screenplay, but I think teaming up with the Oscar-winning writer of Forrest Gump, Eric Roth, and the writer of Marvel's Doctor Strange is a match made in heaven and should be a perfect trio. Also, Tom Hanks is writing a screenplay again, so I hope that the trailer says, "From the writer of That Thing You Do." If you don't know, That Thing You Do is in my top 10 of all time. Grew up on it, sentimental, I love it. Animated feature. My favorite category has a top 5 that includes 2 Pixar movies, the director of Spirited Away, a Disney film starring Awkwafina, and a film about Anne Frank. This is pretty much my dream lineup. I think that this is the only category I feel most confident on as far as your winner. Soul is getting a June 21st release date, which is only 2 days later than Toy Story 4. So release date, looking good, on track. And like I said earlier and many times and will continue to say throughout the year, Pete Docter is your director and co-writer. But what I didn't mention is that the cast includes Academy Award winner Jamie Foxx, Golden Globe winner Tina Fey, Grammy winner Questlove, Emmy nominee Felicia Rashad, Tony winner Daveed Diggs, and of course, Mr. Easter Egg himself, John Ratzenberger. For music, you got 2 Oscar winners in Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, and then Grammy nominee Jonathan Batiste. Talk about diversity and branching out. Pixar is going all out with this one. I think it may end up doing what Spider-Verse, Coco, and Frozen did and just sweep every single award. That being Globe, Critics' Choice, PGA, Annie, VFX, BAFTA, and then of course eventually Oscar. The movie has everything, and I am predicting it to win this with ease, and while at the same time make me sob, and probably end in my top 10 of the year. I cannot wait to see what my favorite studio on the planet has in store. The only real competition at this point is How Do You Live? Because if it's anything like Spirited Away, this is gonna be a tight competition. Cinematography. So to my knowledge, there's no Roger Deakins this year, which means it's anyone's game. But the frontrunner is Dune, with photography by Oscar nominee Greg Fraser. This is where Dune will start its journey of domination, because if it can win enough tech categories, it can have the possibility of winning some above-the-line awards. Villeneuve's last film, Blade Runner 2049, actually won cinematography, which, speaking of Roger Deakins, ended up giving him his first win. It also has that perfect Christmas release date, so it'll be fresh on everyone's minds. But there's also another legend right behind him, fighting for his first Oscar, Robert de Yeoman for The French Dispatch. And based off the trailer, this could absolutely do it. I'd actually even consider having it winning if it wasn't for the early release date. And y'all may be surprised about that inclusion of In the Heights, but watch that trailer again. There are some pretty stunning shots that have me thinking that Alice Brooks may get in there. Hillbilly Elegy will probably have some really great scenic shots that'll be really appetizing to look at. Tenet, well, it's a Nolan film, so you have to put it in because it's Nolan. Production design. At this point, MANK should make easy work of this win. Period piece, plus they'll be recreating some of the production of Citizen Kane. Another thing that is screaming Oscar bait. And MANK decided on Donald Graham as their designer, who we recognize from his award-winning art direction in The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. It'll be really spectacular, really grand, and will be too good to pass up, especially when they play on the nostalgia factor. There's Guillermo del Toro's Nightmare Alley, which doesn't sound quite as promising as Shape of Water, but his designs are usually fantastic. But Dune, obviously right there, French Dispatch, and Tenet. It's a wonderful five-some we have in the mix, but similar to how Once Upon a Time in Hollywood recreated that golden age of Hollywood, bravo to Barbara Ling by the way, this will get the voters right in the feels. Costume design. Jacqueline Durran is doing the costumes for Dune, and I, for one, will most likely predict it winning Best Costumes until we get our first images and trailer. It's a fantasy sci-fi movie with costumes from a two-time winner, most recently for Little Women just last year. If she's not winning, you can at least count on her being nominated, as she has been a total of 7 times. French Dispatch also feels good because of how it looks like it's going to be told in many different segments and stories, and it's going to give Melina Cananero many opportunities to do some fun stuff with her work. I'm being bold with Eternals getting a nomination, but with BAFTA nominee Sammy Sheldon as designer, I feel good about its chances. Also, there's another movie coming out that I'm hoping can get nominated, which is Coming to America, with costumes by one of the biggest snubs from last year, Ruthie Carter. I will never understand how Dolomite Is My Name was shut out, especially for costumes. Anyway, I'm not confident enough quite yet to give it a nomination, but if you go off history, it will, because the original was nominated for costumes back in 1989, and Ruth E. Carter is also somewhat of a given during these awards. But I think it'll depend on how Coming to America is received. Film editing. So this editing nomination is huge, because if we look at stats, you need this nomination in order to be a serious contender for Best Picture. I'm picking Dune, which will probably start to feel like a pattern, but because it has so much star power behind the scenes, Joe Walker is teaming up with Villeneuve again, after already working with him on Blade Runner 2049, Cesario, and his nominated work for Arrival. He was also nominated for 12 Years a Slave. Dune is so highly anticipated, and I don't want to say it because I don't like it, but I think that people may kind of default to it. Also, not counting out In the Heights, it's going to be one of the musicals. Again, it depends on if the Academy goes more for In the Heights or if it goes for West Side Story, but I think at least one of those two will get in. Last Night in Soho is exciting because if it's anything like the way Edgar Wright makes his films, expect some really fast-paced and exciting editing. I'm throwing in Five Bloods and Mank because they are both my Best Picture frontrunners and both have big names behind them. BAFTA nominee Adam Goff on Five Bloods and two-time Oscar winner Kirk Baxter on Mank. Makeup and hairstyling. Thank goodness the Academy decided to have 5 nominees, because it made 0 sense to have 3. Anyway, they should rename this award to the Best Prosthetics. Look at the last few years. Bombshell, Vice, Darkest Hour. One year after another, they just see the prosthetics on a big-time actor, and then it's over. And so because of that, I'm between the nominees that will potentially have the most prosthetics. Gary Oldman will probably have a little work done in Mank, and then The Witches, which is based on Roald Dahl's 1983 classic book. It tells the tale of a 7-year-old boy who has a run-in with real-life witches, and it stars Anne Hathaway, Stanley Tucci, Octavia Spencer, and Chris Rock. So if we see them in prosthetics and they're super cool, it's super over. And although Marvel has never won makeup and hairstyling, I think that this feels good for a nomination, especially with how big and spacey the movie will be. But at the end of the season, no matter what your nominees are, go with the nominee that has the best prosthetics. Hopefully we'll eventually break this pattern. Sound editing. What I have learned about these sound categories is that recently, when Christopher Nolan is involved, don't even think about anything but Christopher Nolan. Dark Knight won sound editing, was nominated for mixing, Inception won both sounds, Interstellar was nominated for both sound awards, and Dunkirk won both sound awards. His movies always have incredible sound, and I expect that an action epic revolving around international espionage, time travel, and evolution will be no exception. Sound mixing. Again, I just can't not choose Nolan. I'd say that it's the one that is most likely to get a nomination, and I guess that is part of the reason why I feel so passionately about it winning. But if you need to talk about it, I can see a musical getting in, so In the Heights or West Side. Dune is the other big blockbuster. Five Bloods is my frontrunner and has two-time nominee Jose Antonio Garcia as their sound mixer. Greyhound has the three-time winner, 12-time nominee Michael Minkler as the supervising sound editor. So it's not like Tenet doesn't have competition, but at this point, it feels like the right move. Visual effects. It's between two, I think. Marvel has still somehow never won this Oscar. And my heart says Eternals, but my brain says Dune, which has visual effects by Paul Lambert, who is 2 for 2 in his Oscar journey so far, winning most recently for First Man in 2019, which beat out Avengers Infinity War. Lambert's first win was with another Villeneuve movie, Blade Runner 2049. When in doubt, I'd say go with the one that is in the Best Picture lineup. Since 2010, we're 50% on the visual effects winner being in the Best Picture lineup. So it's clearly even, but I'd argue that at least 3 of the 5 winners that were in that lineup probably just missed the cut on picture. But for some reason, Marvel still hasn't won, and I'll never understand it, so I think that this may continue until I have no idea when. To be fair, I've heard that the visuals from Dune will change the game, and my eyeballs are ready and willing. Original score. One of my favorite categories has some legends in its lineup. At the top of the list, we have Hans Zimmer, who won for the original Lion King and was again nominated most recently for Dunkirk. We have Black Panther Oscar winner Ludwig Göransson on Tenet. Terrence Blanchard is back with Spike on Five Bloods after earning himself a nomination for Black Klansman. And then our ears will be graced by Oscar winners Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. And then joining them will be Grammy nominee Jonathan Batiste on Pixar's Soul. And I think this will actually end up being my favorite score of the year because Pixar always does a brilliant job of letting the music tell the story and furthering the plot, while not being at the forefront and distracting. Ron and Russell Mael are more unknown compared to the others, but because it is literally a film all in songs, I'm imagining that this is gonna have some awesome underscoring. Some other names that are on this list of 15 include Alexandre Desplat for French Dispatch, The Last Black Man in San Francisco's Emile Mosseri on Minari, and The Avengers' Alan Silvestri on The Witches. Original song. The only big one that I feel confident on happens to be the frontrunner, No Time to Die from the upcoming James Bond movie No Time to Die, which is written by Grammy winner Billie Eilish. Why am I so confident on it? Well, because the last 2 Bond films both won this award. Adele's Skyfall from Skyfall won, then Sam Smith's Writings on the Wall from Spectre won as well. So assuming the pattern continues, Eilish will win in a walk. As far as the other nominations, I think on occasion when musicals are made into films, they like to add a new song. The ones that pop into my head immediately would be Les Mis and Dreamgirls. So I'm thinking that Lin-Manuel Miranda will most likely add something to In the Heights. And my friends, note, if he wins, that would make him an EGOT winner. It's bound to happen eventually, so, you know, why not have it be for the musical that earned him his first Tony? I can also see West Side Story doing something similar, but that's going to be a bit trickier as it is one of the most beloved musicals of all time and has the chance to backfire if they try and add something that was never part of the original. But we'll see. Gotta also think that Annette will have a good list of songs in it. Pixar feels good for a nomination, possibly from Jon Batiste and maybe even performed by Jamie Foxx. Oh, that gives me goosebumps. That sounds awesome. Give me that, please. Also, apparently Christina Aguilera recorded new material for Mulan. So the original singer of Reflection will get a chance to add to her legacy. And I know it'll be beautiful. Those are my predictions for the 93rd Academy Awards March edition. Let me know what you have predicted in the comments. Agree? Disagree? Let me know. And so my friends, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like this video, give me your thoughts in the comments, subscribe to this channel, as well as follow me on Twitter and Instagram at mjoseph492, like my page on Facebook, which is facebook.com/MaxJosephFilmPerson. And if you really love me, please consider being a patron on Patreon, where you can get patron-only content, guest interviews, giveaways, and lots more. You can even give me a film to review, a 10th of the month top 10 category, a ranking, or a song to sing. And that video will be dedicated to you. Shalom, my friends.